right, this is episode 2 of saving Xemina. And Xemina is a Briggs and Stratton pressure washer. And I have hooked water up to it, to the hose inlet, and pressed the trigger on the wand, and water did come out of it. And I didn't see any leaks from the pump, which is promising that it may be a pressure washer, but if not, I'm going to convert this to a lawnmower engine. It'll require a few modifications, but not too many. I did want to show you how this mower shuts on and off. It's this little switch right here which controls the throttle, and let me show you this. So if this was a lawnmower, it wouldn't be made this way, but since it's a pressure washer, there's no bail up here and a kill switch wire running down. It's all right here. So the throttle spring is going to run from that little loop, that wire loop there, to that big kind of oblong hole right there. And so you control the speed of the mower, the throttle, by moving this. You move it this way, it runs faster. You move it that way, it runs slower. But then on this one, the final move, as you can see by the little air filter, which tells you if you move it all the way to this side, boop, then that stops it. And the reason it stops it is the coil wire that kills it comes up to that little point right there, and this touches it and it connects it to the whole engine, and it grounds it out, and there's no spark. So that's how you turn this off. You go boop, and it turns off. Then you turn it this way, and it runs faster, 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 and then that's the full speed. Now this piece here had been bent way over, so it allowed this to travel too far. So I straightened it up, and so now this kill switch should work. I'm a little worried about how barely it's touching that, and you can see it's almost touching the metal there, which would cause it to not get any spark at all, but it's not touching completely, so I think it'll be okay. So I just wanted you to see that. But right now, I need to get this tank off of here because I'm sure it's full of old fuel. No telling how old it is. So let's take a look and see if we can get this mower going. So I'm going to get the tank off, which requires a 1/2 inch socket right there for that big screw that goes into the crankcase. And then there's a 3/8 that attaches to this plate that the throttle is part of. So let's get the big screw going first. And I need a 1/2 inch. I need a 3/8. And there's a 1/2. So I got my 1/2 and I got my 3/8. Well, that was already pretty loose. So that's good. Now this tank may be fine, but I've got to get this old fuel out of here, I'm sure. And now I'll get the front screw out, which is this little 3/8 in the front. That one was pretty loose too. Okay, now you grab both ends of this tank and you start wiggling. And then it'll start slipping towards you. Okay, now it's off, but you've got to make the little L turn by dropping the tank down and then turn it. And it'll clear this little wire loop there. There's an L at the end of that. You got to clear that. And you don't want to forget your little rubber gasket and the little clip that holds it in, the white clip. That's all part of the carburetor. So before I forget, I'm going to slip this little gasket back in here and install the clip as well. The clip will hold it in place when I work on it, if I work on it later. So it clips into place. And I'm going to grab this manifold, try to wiggle it. And it doesn't wiggle, that means it's in good shape. The screws aren't too loose up there that attach it. All right, I'll be back in a second. I got to pour out this old fuel, and it looks really old. Okay, I'm back. What I did while I was off camera is just get some good fresh fuel and just put like a half a cup in there and kind of swish it around, then discard it. So I'm going to think positive on this and assume that this tank's going to be okay, because the primer does push and it sounds pretty good. But I've got to find some the correct carburetor springs for this. And so I need to do that. Let me check my supplies. But first, I think it'd be all right to go ahead and reattach the tank, and then try to attach the carburetor spring. So I'm going to grab this little wire loop and get the little L on there and run it right in that center hole. Putting it in the old center hole of that butterfly right at the top. And now you line it up with the manifold, and be careful to get that rubber grommet boot going onto that tube. Now you wiggle it, wiggle, wiggle it back into place. Okay, so now you reinstalled the tank, and the little spacer is still there. It's still where it's supposed to be. And now we can begin to tighten this back up. So that gets that one started. Now I'm going to start the 3/8 on this side. Got to lift the tank a little bit till I see the hole. There it is. So that tightens up. Now we're going to do the half all the way in. So that's nice and snug. Okay, so we got our tank reinstalled, and when you come back, I will have found the correct springs in my supplies and to connect that throttle, because before this had a bunch of, if you remember the first video, had a bunch of bobby pins and Ziploc ties were holding this in place. So that was totally messed up. So we'll come back for the next episode.